Both camps here have called for large demonstrations. The Muslim Brotherhood, as you've said, calling for a day of anger, asking their supporters to gather for a million-man march, starting at different mosques and then converging on Ramses Square. And then the anti-Morsi camp, if you like, have also called for a demonstration in Tahrir Square, which has become the traditional location for anti-Morsi demonstrations. But in terms of Cairo, those two locations are scarcely more than 2 kilometers away, which, with the numbers of people that are expected today, that's really not far. So there are, of course, concerns that there could be clashes between the two different groups or between Morsi supporters and the army. And with sentiments running as high as they are at the moment, that's a real concern. When we were at the al-Iman mosque yesterday, where so many of the bodies of those who were killed on Wednesday were being kept, the crowd there as we left was chanting that it should now be legitimate for them to use weapons. And of course that seems like something of a turning point, because the Muslim Brotherhood has always insisted that their demonstrations have been peaceful, without any arms whatsoever up until this point. But as I say, as we left, they were chanting that the use of those weapons should be legitimate, and there were several thousand people there at the time.
You mentioned there the al-Iman mosque. Now, we've all seen the pictures of where these scores of the remains of the victims of Wednesday's violence were taken to be identified by their families. You yourself, as you mentioned, were filming there yesterday, and you have information that the security forces moved in there last night.
That's right. I mean, this is the mosque where the bodies of some 200 plus victims of Wednesday's violence were being kept. And last night at around midnight, security forces surrounded the mosque. They fired tear gas to disperse a crowd that was there, a large crowd, at around midnight in spite of the curfew. Now, it's we believe that this was that the motive behind this was to disperse the crowds that were there, because it was already beginning to look like something of a new Muslim Brotherhood sit-in. And then there's also the fact that the families of those who'd been killed, some of them claimed that they were being pressurized by authorities to sign papers saying that their relatives died of natural causes, which clearly wasn't the case. At any rate, health authorities entered the mosque and removed some 200 plus bodies that were there to morgues, which is only going to further fuel the anger that those crowds were feeling there, that we already spoke about, chanting with extreme venom against the Sisi administration.